Child trafficking is not new, but one single woman missionary from Northern Ireland, born 150 years ago and often sick, dared to challenge child trafficking in India and brought about a reformation. Amy Beatrice Carmichael was born on 16th December 1867 in Northern Ireland. Her devout parents, David and Catherine, raised Amy and her 6 younger siblings in the love of God. In 1883, while at boarding school in Yorkshire, Amy put her trust in Jesus during a special missions work to explain Christianity to children. Because of financial difficulties after her father's death, the Carmichael family moved to Belfast, where Amy, at 16, studied music, singing, and painting. One Sunday morning, while she was helping an elderly poor lady, she heard God speak to her through Bible words engraved on a nearby fountain, which changed her life's values, and she started caring for people, teaching children, and visiting the slums with the Belfast City Mission. It was there that she first discovered Shawlees, the local girls who were her age and younger, who worked in the mills in poor conditions 14 hours a day for very little money. Amy brought the Shawlees to church services, but they were not welcomed by everyone. So she decided to raise funds and built the tin tabernacle for £500 and called it the Welcome Hall, a meeting place for the Shawlees. That building still remains this day as the Welcome Evangelical Church. In her early 20s, she had been to 2 Keswick conventions where she heard the great missionary from China, Hudson Taylor, speak. With his words, she felt the Lord drawing her to the same mission, Go Ye. Her application to join the China Inland Mission was rejected due to her health condition. She constantly suffered from pain due to neuralgia. She traveled to Japan in 1893 but was forced to return to England due to illness. The following year, accepting a friend's invitation to join a church in Bangalore, Amy moved to India. 2 years later, she moved to Tinnevelly in Tamil Nadu, now Chennai. Through grueling sessions, she learned the Tamil language and studied the Hindu caste system. She dyed her skin brown with coffee and made every effort to fit herself into the culture. During her mission work in the villages, she had become increasingly aware of the fact that many Indian children were offered and dedicated to the gods by their parents or guardians to become temple children, otherwise referred to as the practice of temple prostitution. That is, in order to fulfill the sexual desires of the priests and the worshippers who come to worship. Sleeping with the temple prostitutes was considered to be an act of worship. Prina was one such young girl dedicated by her mother to a temple. When Prina attempted to escape to her mother, fearing God, thought Prina is not performing her duties well and so returned Prina to the temple. Her hands were burnt with red-hot poker as punishment for running away from the temple. At her second escape, Prina was just 7 years old. Eventually, she did escape and amazingly managed to get to Amy, who took her into her care. Prina slowly explained everything that she had undergone and what they would do to her at the temple. Amy was so moved with compassion that she started an orphanage in 1901 and thereby founded the Dohnavur Fellowship, an organization that provides safety and refuge for temple children. The orphanage, along with the hospitals and schools she constructed, continue to serve today. She became a mother to all the needed ones. She not only cared for the escaped temple prostitutes, but also children who were abandoned, whose parents had died without leaving any resources to care for them. Amy would walk dozens of miles to rescue unwanted children, and she would bring them in and shower love and care. She faced great opposition to all that she was doing, but eventually her efforts and tireless labor as a social reformer led to the law in India being changed to protect children from abuse. She wrote prolifically, publishing nearly 40 books. In her personal devotions, she relied on scripture and poetry. She wrote many poems and songs. Amy had a bad fall in 1931, which restricted her movement for the last 2 decades of her life. She stayed in her room, writing and studying. She often wrote of suffering and patience. Many of Carmichael's 35 books have stories of Dohnavur children, scripture, verses, and photographs of the children or nature. Carmichael never asked for funding, but the mission continued to be supported through donations. On 18th January 1951, Carmichael died at Dohnavur. Her headstone is inscribed Amma, which means revered mother, which the children of Dohnavur called Carmichael. Amy served in India for 55 years and never looked back. She never returned to England after arriving in India. Of the many quotes she wrote, one speaks so profoundly of the life she lived. One can give without loving, but one cannot love without giving.